adjudicate these rules as normal. You may be blessed and not know it. Remember, temerity is always vigilant for signs of grace. You are safe. Might have been one other. For the most part, I found these little inserts to be quite bland and uninformative. This is a better use for it, inserting a bit of flavor, however much that just kind of sounds like gibberish. Psyche Burst. Using your blasphemies builds up residual energy in your internal psychic sea, built of raw and powerful emotion. Without outlets, this energy will overflow and cause your power to grow wild. Fortunately, you are a trained exorcist and can control this power into a form called Psyche Burst. Using any blasphemy power requires a Psyche Burst. Some can spend multiple for extra benefit. You can always spend a Psyche Burst to add an advantage die to any roll, yours or an ally's, by using your blasphemies in a creative way. You always start a mission with 3 Psyche Bursts. You can recover them by resting during a hunt or through the uses of abilities. All exorcists have the following basic blasphemy. Blast. Spend a Psyche Burst and roll Psyche to produce a weaponized form of concentrated psychic energy in melee or short range. The specific look and feel of this basic exorcist skill varies between exorcists. The strength of this blast scales with cat. When your exorcist produces a blast, they might imbue a slash of a blade or a shot with a ranged weapon with psychic energy, shoot an invisible ball of force from their fingers, fire scathing lightning, shoot a bead of ghostly frigid fire. And it doesn't explicitly say this, but given sort of the theming and general layout of this game, you know, I think you should encourage your players to be creative rather than, dampening whatever they feel this would manifest as for their character. Unlike your mundane service weapons, Blast is a supernatural weapon and therefore doesn't become hard by default when used against sins. Every tool a weapon, every weapon a promise. The 12 blasphemies. When you create an exorcist, you'll pick from one of the 12 blasphemies available. Pick 2 powers from that blasphemy and decide how you first manifested your powers. Blasphemies all grant a passive ability and a number of other abilities that can be trained with experience. When using your blasphemy to take action, you usually spend a Psyche Burst, then immediately gain the blasphemy's effects. Sometimes you will roll and only spend a Psyche Burst on success. And sometimes you can even spend multiple at once. Blasphemies often grant you advantage dice. Blasphemies also grant you advantage dice. Unlike your regular human abilities, your blasphemy abilities also scale up with your exorcist category, allowing you to perform unbelievable feats of supernatural force. The specific way the scale up is listed in each blasphemy. Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit paranoid. the last time I tried this, I was kind of in the same situation where I don't really have an ability to check the stream right now, and I had, well, except that doesn't make me feel better because I thought I had checked it a couple times midstream, but the audio did not record. Um, so I'm just quite paranoid about that happening again, which it almost looks like it wasn't. Oh no, it seems to be doing that now, but um, I guess I'll just have to hope for the best. Blasphemies often grant you advantage dice. Unlike your regular human abilities, your Blasphemy's abilities also scale up with your Exorcist category, allowing you to perform unbelievable feats of supernatural force. The specific way they scale up is listed in each blasphemy. Taking additional blasphemies. You start with one primary blasphemy, but can acquire extra blasphemies through training. Doing so is extremely stressful and manifests additional sin seeds, so it is closely monitored by CAIN. You can spend an advance to gain a new blasphemy instead of gaining a new blasphemy. Power. Okay, sorry, I was confused a second. You can spend an advance to gain a new blasphemy instead of gaining a new blasphemy power. You gain that blasphemy's passive ability, gain one power from it, and gain additional powers in that blasphemy moving forward. However, reduce your cap for sin overflow by 1 per extra blasphemy taken. You do this by crossing out a sin box on your sheet. Your XP cap for advance increases by +1 per blasphemy taken. Category and blasphemies. Your Exorcist is rated by category 1 to 5 and will improve in category rating by simply surviving. Category broadly represents your skill in both dealing and avoiding harm, as well as increasing the speed, reach, and scale of your blasphemies when comparing an exorcist to an opponent. Use their category when generally measuring the strength of their powers. The broad examples of category scaling is on page 18, which we've already gone over. That was one other thing I was slightly annoyed by, is the game really wants to shoehorn everything into a category, which I is I get where they're coming from. It's a handy little guide. It just, a lot of it just didn't feel good to me. Also, which, okay, I mean, I guess you could come away with thinking the opposite of me with this example, um, and that they're perfectly right about their efforts. But to me, what it instantly brought to my mind is the scene with Yoda and the X-Wing. And like the whole point of that scene is to, you know, unburden yourself from the, you know, your brain is your only limitation when using these sorts of powers, and that once you unburden yourself from, you know, what you innately thought is possible, then anyways, so it just, like, you know, that just kept on popping into my head, and so it just really seems like you know, especially, I guess, you know, a lot of the examples in category have to do with size. That with, you know, when you get up in category, it's easier to maneuver things of certain size. And to me, that just really seems completely opposite of the point of when you're trying to deal with these phenomena. I don't know. Maybe that's just a personal hang up. Maybe they're shoehorning everything into a category is fine. Also, just feels like, doesn't, I don't know. Sin. An exorcist is a limited being. The targets of their hunts are not. An exorcist's reserves of power are limited unless they take time to recover their strength, a luxury they may not have. There are ways to push beyond your limits. Doing so is not sanctioned by CAIN, but is sometimes necessary during the course of a mission. Instead of spending a psyche burst, you can gain 1d3 sin. This includes any use of psyche burst, such as spending the psyche burst for 1d on rolls or using a psyche blast. If you'd spend multiple psyche bursts, roll all these d3s at the same time. Exceeding 10 sin at any point in a mission will put you into sin overflow, but only at the end of a scene. This means an exorcist can gain limitless sin and tap an incredible source of power if they are already over 10. Sin is not reset per hunt, but is instead halved, rounding up after a mission is over, providing you survived. I do like this. It's it's this exact same person. We saw her very calm 2 pages ago, and now she is barely holding it in. So I do like that a lot. Sin overflow. If an exorcist would exceed their sin overflow limit, which is normally 10, they go into sin overflow at the end of the scene. They lose control of their psychic energies in their body, which start to run wild and begin their transformation into a new sin. A character in Sin Overflow has 2 choices: give up or resist. Give up. A character that gives up effectively ceases to be a player character and may work with the admin to determine the sin they become. They become an antagonist and control is handed over to the admin. They make one final choice, which is to flee or fight. Fighting immediately forces a conflict scene with an imago. The new sin may become a target of a later hunt or a greater antagonist. If the group feels like it is a good time to break and reassess the situation, CAIN may also call the mission, ending it early. An emergence of a new sin is a disaster that drastically changes the parameters of a mission. Note, in CAIN canon, nobody has ever recovered from becoming an imago, but it might be possible in your game. So, again, this is, I had first thought it might have been a me problem given the limited number of games that I've read through in this way, but I've since, through my exposure with other games that we've been reading through on stream, I've really determined that it's a problem I have with this publisher. This seems like a very important important concept, and generally, you write these books in order of most important to least important. And they consistently, to me at least, relegate these very important concepts to very obscure places, but they constantly reference them ahead of time. To me, it's very frustrating. Uh, Perhaps if I was reading this on my own, I'd simply flip there and it wouldn't be as much of a deal. But really, so far, of the games we've been going through for stream, the only times I've felt like this is um, with games developed by these particular people. So I really think it's a them problem, not a me problem. Resist. A character that makes this choice must make a resistance check. This check is automatically passed if a character has no sin marks. With at least one sin mark, they must roll a d6, adding their number of sin marks. On a total of 6 or less, they pass, and they can keep control. On a total result of 7 or higher, they fail and must give up. Oh no. That's worrisome. I really hope wasn't losing audio. Since I was crossed out for a second there when I crossed. Oh no. If I check the VOD and there's no audio, I don't know, because that'll be the second time I've tried this, and I made sure that it said the external mic was connected before I started this time, where the last time I just did my regular startup thing, and I think maybe it didn't pop up. I'm not sure. But I know for a fact that it did today, so I don't know. Oh yeah, there it looked like it was muted again. So yeah, I don't know what's happening with that. A sin mark is a physical manifestation of wild power overflow. Oh, I don't think I finished the top part. A result of one on the die always passes. A character that keeps control clears all sin and gains a sin mark. A sin mark is a physical manifestation of wild power overflow on your body. Evidence of your partial transformation into a sin. You can find a list of sin marks, their effects, and their table on page 86. A sin mark is a new permanent part of your character. It grants new beneficial power and grants you new abilities. Fact: exorcists with sin marks have limited lifespans. They are indelibly stained. The body. You have a few more things that are very important to track. Taking care of your body is correlated with high levels of mission success. Therefore, Castle still encourages you to take advantage of facility health, recreation, and rehabilitation services. Stress. It is inevitable that exorcists put themselves in harm's way during a mission. Not only physical injury, but also exhaustion, fatigue, illness, or mental strain. These kinds of challenges usually would massively impair or incapacitate a regular human. Fortunately, you are an exorcist and always able to take harm by taking stress. When you would take mental or physical harm, you slash your exorcist execution talisman with stress instead. 1 slash. Pain, strain, tiredness, suffering, minor injury. 2 to 3 slashes. Crippling or even fatal to most humans, injury, exhaustion, bleeding, deprivation, poison, etc. 4+ slashes. instantly and messily fatal to humans. However, exorcists are not humans. Your talisman has capacity for 6 slashes. You always start your hunt without any slashes on the talisman. If you would take stress that puts you past your maximum capacity for slashes, it remains at capacity and the remainder does not fill over. This allows even 1 slash left on your talisman to take any amount of punishment. If your talisman is full and you would take slashes again, you take an injury and clear all your slashes. Yeah, this seems to be a familiar mechanic from Lancer. I didn't know how I felt about it in Lancer, and I don't really know how I feel about it here. Injuries. Injuries represent a direct physical or mental harm to... And this is really frustrating since that looks like it wasn't... like it literally does not record unless I'm like physically in Prism. I don't know. I really don't know what to do about this. Exorcists can fight and act normally through taking an injury. Taking an injury clears all stress, but then reduces your maximum stress by 1. While you have it, this stacks for each injury you have. Injuries have the following additional rules. You heal all injuries after a mission is over and always start missions with no injuries. You also heal all injuries if you defy your fate instead of dying. If you have, well, first typo for tonight, this is another hallmark of this group. Heal all injuries if you have 3 injuries, you are on the brink of death. If you take any more harm, even if it's mitigated by stress, you will suffer instant death. So that does look like it is all the time we have for tonight. Again, that looks like it was muted if I wasn't in Prism, so I don't know how much about that you heard. This has been a really frustrating experience again, with it constantly muting like that. We'll see how much of it actually turned up in the VOD. But yes, we'll end that here with rules for instant death, it looks like. I'm not sure if and when we'll pick this back up, especially if it's going to be finicky like this. Our next regular stream will be on tomorrow. We'll be back with Mothership. But that's it for tonight.